What kind of monster would scream at a child for playing music? The question hung in the air as the sharp notes of a flute pierced the quiet of a suburban afternoon. In the small town of Willow Creek, where neighbors waved from porches and kids rode bikes until dusk, the sound of music was usually a welcome thread in the community's fabric. But not for Karen Mitchell. At 42, Karen had a reputation. Her voice, loud and grating, was a megaphone for complaints about unmowed lawns, barking dogs, or kids laughing too loudly. Today, her target was the flute music drifting from the Nguyen family's backyard. It was noon, the sun high and unrelenting, when Karen stormed out of her house, her face red with indignation. The music, delicate and halting, came from 16-year-old Lin Nguyen, a shy high school sophomore practicing for a state music competition. Lin's fingers trembled over the silver keys, her breath uneven as she tried to master a tricky passage of Vivaldi. She didn't know her music was about to spark a firestorm. Karen's flip-flops slapped against the pavement as she marched across the street, her oversized floral shirt billowing. She didn't knock. She didn't call out. She pushed through the Nguyen's gate, her voice slicing through the air like a siren. "Who's making that racket? Stop it right now." Lin froze, her flute still at her lips, eyes wide with shock. Her mother, Min, who was watering roses nearby, dropped the hose, water pooling at her feet. "Excuse me, ma'am," Min said, her voice calm but firm. "My daughter is practicing for school. It's the middle of the day." Karen's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. "I don't care what it's for. It's annoying, and I'm trying to enjoy my lunch in peace." Lin lowered her flute, her cheeks burning. She'd always been quiet, the kind of girl who apologized for existing, and now she felt the weight of Karen's glare crushing her. Min stepped forward, her petite frame a stark contrast to Karen's imposing bulk. "This is our property, and she's not breaking any rules. Please leave." But Karen didn't budge. She planted her hands on her hips, her voice rising. "I'll call the police. You can't disturb the peace like this." Lin's heart raced. The police? For playing her flute? She clutched the instrument tighter, her knuckles white. Across the fence, a neighbor, Tom, peeked out, drawn by the commotion. He frowned, sensing trouble, and pulled out his phone, not to call anyone, but to record. Karen's tirade grew louder, her words venomous. "You people think you can do whatever you want? This is a nice neighborhood." Min's face tightened at the jab, but she held her ground, her voice steady. "My daughter has every right to practice. She's worked hard for this." The argument escalated, Karen's voice drowning out the soft chirping of birds. Lin wanted to disappear, to melt into the grass beneath her feet. She'd spent months preparing for the competition, her only chance to earn a scholarship to a music program. Her family didn't have much. Min worked double shifts at a diner, and Lin's father was gone, leaving them to scrape by. The flute was Lin's escape, her hope, her voice. And now this woman was trying to silence it. Karen pulled out her phone, jabbing at the screen. "I'm calling the cops right now," she declared, as if it were a victory. Min's eyes flashed with something new, anger, but also fear. She knew how complaints could spiral, how a woman like Karen could twist the truth. Tom, still recording, stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "Karen, you're overreacting. It's just a kid playing music." Karen whirled on him, her face a mask of fury. "Stay out of this, Tom. You don't know what it's like living next to this noise." Lin's throat tightened, tears stinging her eyes. She wanted to run inside, but her feet felt glued to the ground. The flute, once her comfort, now felt like a burden. Min put a hand on Lin's shoulder, her touch grounding but trembling. "Go inside, sweetheart," she whispered. Lin shook her head, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry, Mom." Min's heart broke at the words. This wasn't Lin's fault. It was Karen's. As Karen ranted, her voice a relentless hammer, something shifted in the air. Another neighbor, Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman with a sharp mind and sharper tongue, appeared at the fence. She'd heard the commotion from her porch, where she'd been sipping tea. Karen Mitchell, you ought to be ashamed, she called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. Karen paused, caught off guard. Mrs. Carter didn't stop. That girl's playing music for a school competition, and you're out here acting like she's committing a crime. Karen's mouth opened, then closed, her confidence wavering for the first time. Mrs. Carter's words carried weight in Willow Creek. She'd lived there for decades, her wisdom respected by all. Lynn looked at her, a flicker of hope in her chest. Maybe this wouldn't end in disaster. But Karen wasn't done. She doubled down, her voice shrill. I don't care about some stupid competition. I deserve peace in my own home. She dialed her phone, her fingers shaking with rage. Min's face paled as she heard Karen's voice on the call, exaggerating the situation, claiming the music was unbearable, and disrupting the entire neighborhood. Tom's video kept rolling, capturing every word, every gesture. Lynn felt her world shrinking, the notes of her Vivaldi piece fading in her mind. She didn't know it yet, but this moment was only the beginning, a spark that would ignite a confrontation far bigger than a backyard argument. The police arrived within 20 minutes, their cruiser pulling up to the Nguyen's house with a quiet authority that made Lynn's stomach twist. 2 officers stepped out, their faces neutral but their presence amplifying the tension. Karen stood triumphant, arms crossed, as if she'd already won. Min, however, was composed, though her hands shook as she explained the situation. My daughter was practicing her flute for a school competition. It's noon. We're not breaking any laws. The officers, a young man named Officer Daniels and an older woman, Officer Lopez, listened carefully. Lynn stood behind her mother, clutching her flute like a lifeline, her eyes darting between the adults. Tom, still filming, gave the officers a nod, his phone subtly angled to capture everything. Mrs. Carter lingered by the fence, her expression a mix of disapproval and determination. Karen launched into her version of events, her voice dripping with exaggeration. This noise has been going on for hours. I can't even think straight. It's a public nuisance. Officer Lopez raised an eyebrow, glancing at Lynn, who looked like she might cry. Ma'am, Lopez said, her tone measured. It's midday. There's no ordinance against practicing music at this hour, especially for a school event. Karen's face reddened, her mouth opening to protest, but Daniels cut in. Let's hear from the others. Min explained Lynn's competition, her voice steady but laced with urgency. She's worked so hard. This is her chance to get a scholarship. Lynn's heart pounded as she heard her mother's words, the weight of her dreams laid bare. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Tom stepped forward, holding up his phone. I've got it all recorded, he said, his voice calm but firm. Karen's been harassing them for no reason. She even made a racist comment. The air grew heavy, as if the sun itself had paused. Min's eyes widened, and Lynn's breath caught. Racist comment? Lynn hadn't caught it in the heat of the moment, but Tom had. He played the video. The audio cleared despite Karen's attempts to interrupt. Her voice rang out. You people think you can do whatever you want? The words, dripping with venom, hung in the air. Officer Lopez's face hardened, and Daniels exchanged a glance with her. Karen's bravado faltered, her eyes darting nervously. That's not what I meant, she stammered, but the officers weren't buying it. The video didn't just show Karen's words, it showed her aggression, her refusal to listen, her towering presence over Lynn, who looked small and vulnerable. The officers conferred quietly, then Lopez turned to Karen. Ma'am, this could be considered harassment, especially with that kind of language. We're going to need you to come with us to answer some questions. Karen's face drained of color, her mouth working soundlessly. Harassment? I'm the victim here, she protested, but her voice lacked its earlier fire. Min stepped closer to Lynn, wrapping an arm around her. Lynn felt a surge of relief, but also guilt. Had her music caused all this? As the officers escorted Karen to the cruiser, she kept talking, her voice a mix of defiance and panic. This is ridiculous. I have rights. But the neighborhood was watching now, faces peering from windows, some nodding in approval at the officer's actions. Mrs. Carter called out, "Maybe next time, think before you yell at a child." The words stung, and Karen's shoulders slumped as she climbed into the cruiser. Lynn watched, her emotions a tangled mess: relief, fear, and something new, anger. She'd never wanted trouble, but Karen had pushed too far. Back at the Nguyen's house, Min sat Lynn down, her hands gentle but firm. "You did nothing wrong," she said, her eyes fierce with love. "You keep playing. Don't let her take that from you." Lynn nodded, but her hands shook as she lifted the flute. The notes came out wobbly at first, but as she played, the music steadied, each note a defiance of Karen's cruelty. Tom stayed, offering to send the video to Min in case they needed it. Mrs. Carter brought over a plate of cookies, her way of saying the neighborhood was behind them. But the victory felt hollow. Lynn couldn't shake the image of Karen's face, the way her words had cut deeper than any note she'd ever played. That evening, the story spread through Willow Creek like wildfire. Neighbors whispered about Karen's outburst, the video, the police. Some felt sorry for her, saying she'd had a rough year. Her husband had left. Her job was unsteady. But most agreed she'd crossed a line. Lynn practiced in her room, the flute's melody softer now, tinged with doubt. What if Karen came back? What if the competition wasn't worth all this? Min watched her daughter, her heart aching. She knew this wasn't over. Karen's kind didn't let go easily, and the truth, raw and undeniable, was about to collide with her defiance in a way no one could predict. The next morning, Willow Creek buzzed with tension. Karen had returned home after a few hours at the station, her face a mask of resentment. She didn't apologize. Instead, she doubled down, posting on the neighborhood's online forum, claiming she was victimized by the Nguyen's and their incessant noise. She demanded a petition to ban daytime music practice, framing it as a matter of community standards. The post went viral within hours, splitting the neighborhood. Some defended Karen, citing her right to peace, while others rallied behind Lynn, sharing Tom's video and praising her talent. Lynn saw the post on her phone, her stomach churning. She hadn't wanted a war over her music. She just wanted to play. Min, furious but strategic, contacted a lawyer friend, Sarah, who reviewed Tom's video and suggested filing a harassment claim. Karen's behavior, especially the racial undertone, could have consequences, Sarah said. Min hesitated. She didn't want to escalate, but Karen's post was rallying a small but vocal group of supporters, some leaving cruel comments about Lynn's family. Lynn overheard her mother's call and felt a pang of guilt. "Mom, maybe I should stop practicing," she whispered. Min's eyes blazed. "No, you stop, she wins. We fight this with truth." Lynn nodded, her resolve hardening. She picked up her flute, the notes sharper now, fueled by a quiet defiance. The confrontation came at a community meeting called to address the noise issue. The local community center was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Karen stood at the front, her voice loud as she recounted her suffering. Lynn and Min sat in the back, Lynn's flute case on her lap, her heart pounding. Tom was there, his phone ready, and Mrs. Carter sat nearby, her presence a silent anchor. As Karen spoke, painting herself as the victim, Min stood, her voice cutting through the room. "My daughter is practicing for a state competition. She's not hurting anyone. This woman harassed her, insulted us, and now she's lying to you all." The room went silent. Karen's face flushed, but before she could respond, Tom raised his hand. "I have proof," he said, and played the video on a projector. The footage was damning. Karen's voice, her aggression, her words, "you people," echoed through the room. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen tried to interrupt, claiming the video was edited, but the raw footage spoke for itself. Lynn watched, her hands trembling, as the room turned against Karen. A man in the crowd, a music teacher named Mr. Evans, stood up. "I know Lynn. She's one of the best flutists I've taught. She's competing for a scholarship that could change her life." His words hit Lynn like a wave, pride mixing with fear. Karen's supporters faltered, their arguments crumbling under the weight of the truth. Then came the collapse. The meeting's organizer, a city official, announced that Karen's actions violated local anti-harassment ordinances. The police had already issued a warning, but with the video and mounting complaints, they were considering charges. Karen's face crumpled, her bravado gone. She stammered, "I didn't mean it like that." But no one listened. The crowd's murmurs turned to whispers of justice. Lynn felt a strange mix of relief and pity. Karen had brought this on herself, but the sight of her, alone and exposed, was almost too much. Min squeezed Lynn's hand, grounding her. In the days that followed, Karen's world unraveled. The neighborhood shunned her, her petition ignored. The police filed a misdemeanor harassment charge, and she was ordered to attend community service. But the real punishment was social. She lost the respect she'd never truly earned. Lynn, meanwhile, threw herself into her practice, the flute becoming her voice again. The competition was a week away, and she played with a fire she hadn't known she had. On the day of the event, the auditorium was packed. Min sat in the front row, her eyes shining. Lynn stepped onto the stage, her flute gleaming under the lights. The notes of Vivaldi soared, each one a triumph over Karen's cruelty, over doubt, over fear. When Lynn won first place, the crowd erupted. Min rushed to hug her, tears streaming down her face. Back in Willow Creek, the neighborhood celebrated, Mrs. Carter baking a cake and Tom posting about Lynn's victory online. Even Karen heard the news, sitting alone in her house, the silence she'd craved now a heavy weight. Lynn's music had become a symbol of resilience, a reminder that kindness and talent could outshine hate. As Lynn held her trophy, she realized something. Her music wasn't just for her anymore. It was for every kid who'd ever been told to be quiet, to shrink, to stop dreaming. And in that moment, she played on, her notes carrying hope into the future.